Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video and another plug side chat. In this I'm going to continue the keys to improving electric vehicle adoption, and I'm finally going to get to the topic that I think a lot of you have stated, you think is the key parameter, and it's price. And I agree and I disagree. I do think that it would help, obviously, lowering the price of almost anything is going to improve its adoption. But I don't know that it's going to have as much of an effect as some people believe. So, discussing price up front, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. First is even within this channel, I hear people commenting on this. Where you see the regular, oh well, say something like the Bolt EV, it's the equivalent of a Corolla or a Focus, right, which start under $20,000. And I'll disagree on that for several reasons. When you look at the vehicles that are under $20,000 brand new, they're usually not very capable. You have some basic commuter cars, and that's fine. But there are a lot of factors that you need to consider. And I'll go into this in more detail later in another video where I talk about what I think are the Bolt EV's actual comparables or actual competitors or competing vehicles. Um, but the if you go metric by metric, the two vehicles that most closely match the Bolt EV in terms of capability and functionality are the Ford Focus ST and the VW Golf GTI. Both of those cars start at about 25 to $26,000. So not the 17 or 16 or $15,000 that some people believe. If your goal is to buy the cheapest car possible, really you should be buying used. You're gonna get far more capable, far better vehicles for that price point than you would be if you bought new. A $17,000 Corolla is not going to be that great of a car for you. But getting back to that, Ford Focus ST or a Golf GTI, like I said, both in the mid to high 20s starting. So yes, in that regard, the Bolt EV is overpriced by about $10,000, given the capabilities. But conveniently, we have $7,500 federal rebate if you qualify for it for your taxes, and most states have some sort of, or I shouldn't say most states, many states have some sort of a rebate program, and usually 1,500, 2,000, $2,500 depending. It could change also based on income. So that really basically eliminates the difference in price at that point. And it explains, yes, why certain states have higher sales of electric vehicles, because it brings those electric vehicles down to a point uh, where they compete directly with the comparable vehicles that are powered by gasoline or other fuel sources. Then the other thing is that the numbers that get thrown around a lot are the average new car MSRP, which right now is between about 34 and $35,000. And there's another number that doesn't, in my opinion, get circulated enough. So, and that's the mean or the median new car price. So the average new car MSRP, that can be a little bit misleading because you have these really expensive cars that get sold for really high MSRPs, and so they throw that average off, right? So you might look at that 34 to 35,000 and say that's an affordable car. Not really, because and that's something that the Bolt EV targeted that market, the Tesla Model 3 targeted that market, but really $35,000 is actually a lot more than most people pay. The median new car price, and I'll have to see if I can find the I believe it was a Business Insider article that was referencing this. but the median new car price is about $22,000. So that's significantly lower than that $35,000 average. And what it means is basically 50% of all cars sold new are sold for under $22,000. Now, really, there aren't very many electric vehicles at all that are available for that price. And so, yes, if you want to improve electric vehicle adoption, you do need some sort of a competent offering under $22,000. It needs to be able to compete. Now, yes, you can say maybe it could be $30,000 or $32,000 and then cash in on that credit. But the problem is most of the credits that we have for electric vehicles, unfortunately, are regressive. And what that means is they become more of an incentive the more money you have, and they become less of an incentive the less money you have. And so, $7,500 federal tax rebate, in order to actually cash in on that, you need to have an income level of between $50,000 and $60,000 as an individual. So if you have a $50,000 to $60,000 individual income, you're really not that, you're really not that sensitive to pricing in the first place. But the good thing is some of the rebates do actually benefit lower income people a little bit more. So say California, instead of getting 2,500, you might get 5,000. But the other issue is too, most of these aren't point of sale rebates. So you do end up needing to buy the car for full price and you get the money later, which means that if you're a lower income buyer, you're having to finance more money. So even if you were to get the full rebates, you're paying more out of pocket than you would normally be paying. So instead of having a $150 to $200 a month car payment, you now have a $400 to $500 a month car payment. So yeah, that even with the incentives, there are some issues with affordability of electric vehicles for lower income buyers. And then on top of that, you have the issue of charging at home. Lower income buyers are more likely to be living in multi-unit dwellings where maybe they don't have access to charging. They're more likely to be working at workplaces that don't have work charging installed. They're more likely to, if they are living in homes, to be in homes without street access, like a driveway. So it makes it more difficult to charge a vehicle if you only have street parking. Or they live in rural areas where the typical range of an electric vehicle right now isn't enough to actually facilitate their driving needs. When your round trip to a grocery store is over 100 miles, it's really difficult to justify an electric vehicle that won't be able to make that trip 365 days out of a year. It also means that leasing is less of an option. Now, the reason why I don't think that price alone is going to have as big of an impact ties into all of those factors about lower income buyers. Lower income vehicle buyers tend to have very special needs for their vehicles that, say, someone who commutes 10 miles a day into work doesn't need, right? So if anything, lower income buyers actually need more competent electric vehicles than higher income buyers. They have to have a vehicle that does everything for them. So even if you're talking about lowering the price, say you can get a 200-mile electric vehicle down to $20,000, given the restrictions on access to charging, given the additional driving needs, given the fact that it might be a single vehicle family, even then, lower income buyers might not be compelled to buy a vehicle if it costs, $20,000 and has some of those limitations. So And the other thing is we've seen that price does, it does increase the uptake of electric vehicles, but we already have a lot of really low cost electric vehicles that are used. And when I say low cost, I mean relative to other vehicles that are used at that same level. While I was having my Bolt EV software refreshed, they had an i3 on the lot for $18,000. This car only had 30,000 miles on it, right? This is a car that someone could buy for less than $20,000. It still has a close to a full warranty. It's a fairly capable electric vehicle, and they could get it for under $20,000. So they are available. But I would also say again, go back to that median new car price. $22,000 is still actually a lot more than a third, almost half the people are willing to spend, and that's new car. I have a lot of friends who buy used, and their budgets for cars end at about $5,000. So there aren't a whole lot of EVs even used that meet that criteria. So we have a long way to go. And while, yes, lowering the price is going to help somewhat, it's going to help some of those price sensitive buyers who are right on the edge of being able to afford the vehicle. I think you'd be better served making sure that the incentives we have aren't regressive, and making sure that the vehicles that we're selling are actually more compelling. And then the price won't be as big of an issue because, again, until we have a really robust used electric vehicle population, and we can start getting these prices down even for competent electric vehicles, it's still going to be a hard sell, and it might not improve the numbers of purchases as much as we're hoping. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this topic. I know some of you have already commented. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and thank you for watching.